Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by Northeastern junior Maureen Murphy. Welcome to the podcast, Maureen, and how's everything going?
It's good. Pretty busy since we got back from NCAA's, but no complaints really.
Yeah, and your team made it all the way to the national championship game in the NCAA tournament. Have you had time to fully process what just happened, and are you still reflecting on just the whole national tournament?
Um, haven't really had time to process, but I think just like our whole team's obviously it was a special experience, especially for Northeastern and Hockey East. But obviously we wish we had won, but just still super grateful that we even made it that far, especially in the season when not a lot of teams were playing. So I think we've all recognized that, and we got to spend a lot of time together as a team, which was really fun. So
Yeah, and I want to start off this podcast by talking about what happened before that national championship game. Northeastern had a great regular season record. What was the key for maintaining that success throughout the regular season, especially only having one loss that came in regulation, and that was the first game of the season for you guys?
yeah, I think we just have we have a lot of depth, and everybody plays their role really well. Like we have a fourth line that can score big goals for us, which isn't common to have four lines that can do that. So I think just like everyone bought in. We had to make some sacrifices as every team did, but we couldn't go to restaurants. We couldn't hang out with other people. So I think just the fact that we were all so involved and invested in the team made it that much more, not easier, but definitely contributed to our success.
Yeah, and how does your team handle the pressure of being a number one ranking in the country, especially since there's a lot of outside noise that comes with that ranking, and also being in a conference like Hockey East where any team can knock you out at any point during the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a target on your back that much bigger, but it's also a sign of respect. And it was really cool that you're always going to get everyone's best game, so you can't just show up thinking that, oh, we're going to just like walk all over this team, because for a lot of teams, like that's their biggest game of the year. Like they might not get to go to NCAA's, but we were fortunate we got to, and I think teams know that, and so they just show up and they give it everything, which is awesome. It makes every game competitive and just a lot more fun to play.
Do those games make your team a better team overall, especially since, like, I guess, like, any team in hockey can beat you guys at any point. So when they're giving you all their best, does that help you guys become a better team throughout the regular season because you're not facing any team's worst game, I guess?
Yeah, I think it forces us to show up every day, and it holds us accountable, whether it be on that game or whether it's in practice. Like we don't go into the week being like, oh, like we're playing this team, like it doesn't matter. Like no, it's I think it's just, like I said, a sign of respect, and it holds everyone accountable.
Now, your team had to deal with a lot of schedule changes during the regular season. How did you mentally stay prepared for all those changes in your schedule? And what was the key for maintaining flexibility for this season? Because in hockey, so you guys didn't even know who you're going to play that weekend until the Tuesday of that week.
Right. I can't 100% speak to that because I wasn't playing during that time when we had a lot of schedule changes, but I think everyone, like every time we did have a game, people kind of approach it as like, well, this could be our last game of the season. So it just puts things in perspective. And then I think just the reminder that, we're getting to practice, like maybe we don't get to play a game that week, but everyone's healthy, which is great during a pandemic. And then just like so many teams don't even get to practice. So just to have that is obviously a blessing.
Yeah, no. And how would you evaluate your leadership skills this year as an upperclassman? I'm curious about your leadership skills because you joined the team during the middle of the regular season, or that's when you started playing. I guess, like, what type of leadership were you trying to bring to the team, being from another team in Hockey East?
I think just like trying to bring the perspective that it's just a game and it's fun, and just to be grateful for everything and every time you step on the ice. And I think if I can, it took me a while to kind of learn that and practice what I preach, but I think if I can kind of help other people come to that realization a lot sooner than I did, then they're going to enjoy every minute. And I think obviously college is a finite time of your life, so you don't want to spend it like being pissed off over a game or sad. So yeah, just recognizing that it is a game and trying to pick people up and just be like a good positive energy for the team.
Now, a lot of transfers have to adjust to a new role in their new team. Talk about your role on Northeastern and how did you adjust to that?
Um, it was obviously different. I came into the season thinking that I wasn't going to be able to play at all. So I knew that my primary role was in practice going to be to push people, which was fun. And I got to play with like literally everyone on the team. So that was great. I wasn't just with one line, like I was all over the board. And I like knowing that we do have a good team and I didn't want to overstep on anyone, but I also knew that I could make the team better even if I wasn't playing in competition. So just that was my role, and it changed throughout the season, and I am happy that I got to play. But it started off as just being a practice player, which was fine. I was happy, had a good time. So
Yeah, and something else that was introduced to college hockey this year, I'm curious to get your opinion on this, was 3-on-3 overtime. What was that like for yourself being an offensive player and having more space on the ice and having more chances to score goals?
that was really fun. I think the 5-on-5 overtime, like obviously it's great to play more hockey, but it didn't often end in a lot of goals. And especially in hockey East, when you have so many talented offensive players, it was really cool, not only to watch our team, but also to watch other players and other offensive threats to have more room to work and be creative.
Yeah, and something else about those 3-on-3 overtime situations is it seems like you have to be a little more defensively minded just because if you make one little defensive mistake, it can cause an odd man rush. Is that something you noticed during those overtime situations that you were a part of?
Yeah, it's definitely there's more accountability because you're playing man on man, so you can't really um, afford to let that one person get by you, or it's a chance the other way. But um, that's what makes it more fun, I think, is that high tense situation where everybody wants to win. So
Yeah, and another reason why I like the 3-on-3 overtime is it eliminates ties. I'm not a big fan of ties. Are you a big fan of ties?
yeah,
Uh,
no,
yeah, that was that a great aspect of, guess, the 3-on-3 overtime, not having knowing that there wasn't going to be a tie at the end of the day, at least in your minds. I know officially it sometimes goes in as one.
right, yeah.
Now, what is it like playing this season without any fans, and was that an adjustment for yourself?
Um, Honestly, no, just because we don't haven't like women's hockey doesn't typically get a lot of fans. The one thing I noticed was that in NCAA's, I think that normally like it gets pretty full if it doesn't sell out. So that was kind of a bummer. Like we couldn't have all our family there, but obviously to have at least some fans in those games took a little bit to get used to after we didn't have fans in our home or in any of the Hockey East games. But it wasn't a huge change. It might be next year, but I guess it depends how many people we get.
Yeah, no, are you excited for the possibility of fans coming to Northeastern, especially the season that you guys had this past year? I'm assuming that the house is going to be pretty packed for most nights.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely gain some more student support and alumni support because we heard from a lot of them when we went to Erie, which was awesome. And I think everyone will just be that more excited to go to a real life event versus watching it on a screen. So
Definitely, I agree with you on that. Now, in the first game of the Hockey East tournament, you played UNH. You guys won that game. However, what did you take away from that game, especially since UNH was one of the few teams that beat you guys this year in the regular season?
they came out hard in the first period. I don't really think the score was reflective of how they played. It easily could have been a 1-1, or they could have taken the lead. But they're a fun team to play, and they challenge us, and we knew that going in. So
Yeah, and then you played UConn. What challenges did UConn bring? What challenges does UConn bring as a team, and how did you try to go against some of their challenges? Because watching that game, it seemed like they gave you guys a lot of offensive challenges and defensive challenges as well because it was such a close game. It was such a back and forth game.
yeah, they really pack the house. So They kind of keep us as a perimeter, which as a high scoring team, we don't really enjoy that much. And they're also very disciplined, so they don't make a lot of mistakes, especially in their team systems, which are pretty sound. And yeah, they're just very good at protecting the house. So it's hard to penetrate and get in there and get shots.
Yeah, and talk about the goal that Chloe AR scored late in that third period, shorthanded, and that obviously helped her team make the Hockey's finals. I guess what emotions were going through your head after she scored that goal?
Obviously, pretty excited. I think that when we do get a penalty kill, like not no one on our team really gets nervous just because we have. I don't know if people. I don't know. They're just Alina and Chloe are a dynamic duo, and then you add Sky and Hobby in there, and it kind of seems like they're not even down a player. So obviously, everyone was really excited when they scored, and just had to keep the emotions in check for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and you obviously have one of the best penalty killers in Erin Frankel, your goaltender. She just won the Patty Kazmaier Award. I gotta ask you, what was your reaction to that news?
We were all really like just waiting for it to go down, and obviously we think she deserved it because like we wouldn't have the success we did without her. But she's also a great leader, and I think both off and on the ice, what she brings to this team is irreplaceable. And sometimes I think people don't see that as much just because we are in Hockey East, and sometimes we say like, oh, well, you're not playing Minnesota or Wisconsin, but she showed that like she can hang with anyone. So
Yeah, no, and talk about what makes her such a good goaltender from an offensive player standpoint, because it seems like it's only like one or two goals that she's going to give up every single game, which is pretty incredible, especially in college hockey where there's so many great offensive players.
yeah, she comes out really far. Like she's pretty aggressive, and she's just also very agile. So she can get back. Like if you think you have her, she'll be able to get back right in the net. And I think people are kind of taken back sometimes by her unorthodox style. So it's like, oh, she's coming at me, which like a lot of goalies don't do. But I think it makes it that much harder to score on her because the spots that are usually open aren't there, and you have to think very outside the box.
Now, you got to play with Erin in high school at Shattuck. How has she developed from that time to now in college hockey?
Well, I always said that like she was the reason we won, and I'm grateful we won 3 national championships every year I was there. But I always said she's the single-handedly one of the greatest reasons we won, and I've only seen her have one bad game in her entire career. And I was always kind of surprised that she never got any looks from USA Hockey when we were younger. And I'm glad she is now. But and even in the college process, I think some people overlooked her because she is smaller, but I'm really happy and proud of her for like kind of not standing up for herself, but overcoming those challenges and proving everyone wrong.
Now, in the Hockey East finals, you played your former team, Providence. Talk about winning your first Hockey East championship, and what did that mean to you, especially going against your former team?
It was weird for sure, um, especially after the game when like obviously they were upset, um, and I felt bad, but obviously it means a lot to our team, and just that I could be a part of the culture, because like we have a lot of good players, but um, talent doesn't win hockey games. Like we all bought in, and I'm just really grateful and was really thankful that the team was rewarded for everything they'd done this season, especially and the rest of the staff, like Coach Flynn, um, everyone involved.
Now, what was your mindset heading into the tournament this year after winning the Hockey East championship?
Just like I said, I being really grateful, and kind of taking everything in, just like never really letting a day go by without recognizing that it was cool. And I think it'll seem cooler later down the line. Like I think right now we're all still not in shock, but haven't processed it completely. But it was a great experience. My parents got to see me play for the first time in over a year and a half, like in person. Um, so that was awesome. And then just the support we had from Northeastern and everyone just was great.
Now, what was the setting and atmosphere like at the tournament this year? Because in past years, you guys get the red carpet treatment. Obviously, the atmosphere is really cool with the pep bands in the stands. I guess what was the atmosphere like in this tournament with only really like 25% capacity at the game?
It was still really loud, and we still felt really, really special. They did what they could, and even having a tournament was a miraculous feat in and of itself. So I don't think anyone, and that was our first Frozen Four anyway, so no one had really experienced um, the red carpet treatment, so to speak. So I think anything that we received or got or whatever treatment we had when we were there, we were all thankful.
Now, in the first game of that tournament, you played Robert Morris. What did you overall take away from that game? And talk about what was your game plan against that team since you've never played them before.
Yeah, so they actually play pretty similar to UConn, where they pack the house. So we knew we had to get in there, and I think we're a faster team, but they work super hard, so they weren't just going to let us have free reign. So just using our speed, capitalizing on the power play if we did get one, um, and yeah, just outworking them.
They obviously have a dynamic centerman in Lexi Templeman. What was your game plan against her? Because she obviously can create many different plays for her teammates on that team.
Yeah, so we were kind of matched up with that line, and just not letting her get a lot of speed or get that shot off, I think, was a vital key to the success.
Then you played Minnesota Duluth in the Frozen Four. You guys were down by 2 goals heading into the third period. What was the message in the locker room before that third period? And just talk about the goal that you scored in that third period to help your team bring that game to overtime.
I think in between the the second and third, there was just like no one had any doubt. Like Brooke Hobson was like, "I have faith in every single one of you," and um, I think we leaned on each other a lot. Obviously, like we were nervous, but that was just because we cared. So then we went out there, and our goal was to get one on the power play and make it a 2 goal game or a 1 goal game, excuse me. And we knew that if we did, they'd be nervous because then it's only one more shot. So I think if we hadn't scored on that power play, it would have been a lot harder to defeat that 2 goal lead. But we did. We just kept it simple, and Sky passed it to me right in front, and I just shot it at the net. So
Yeah, what was going through your head when you scored that goal? Because seeing your reaction was pretty awesome just because you seemed so relieved and happy at that moment.
yeah, I think that I knew that if we got that first goal, like there was no doubt that we were going to get another one, and we were going to give ourselves a good chance to win and move on. So I think that first goal was definitely the biggest hurdle for our team, and I think once we got that, everyone was like, "Oh, we can do this!" Like so.
Then Skylar Fontaine scored that great overtime goal to help you bring your team to the national championship game. What was going through your head when she scored that goal? Because seemed like it was slow motion because it hit off the goalie's pad and kind of trickled into the net.
Yeah, Sky and I were talking between periods, and she was like, "Oh, I've shot." She had like 18 shots or something ridiculous, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just not hitting it today. Like I just can't get it." And Alina and Chloe and some other of my teammates were just like, "No, like just keep shooting." Like we had a lot of faith in her, so I think I was a little nervous that she was gonna kind of take herself out of the game. Not obviously not significantly, but that she might not have as much confidence as she should. So I think when she did score, I was really, really happy for her, and obviously for the team, but just for her overcoming that self-doubt that she might have had, and ultimately like knowing that she was relying on um, her teammates to help her out there.
Now, how do you handle the nerves of being in a national championship game? Because I don't know if I could do that, honestly. It seems like it's such a big game, and you try to like. I was listening to like a psychologist talking about like a lot of people like really good athletes like don't even think about it as like a national championship game. They kind of just think about it as any other game. Is that kind of the mindset you were trying to have in that moment?
Yeah, honestly, I think I was more nervous for the first 2 games, just because there was a lot of pressure. Like that first game, our team had never won a tournament game, so I think there was a lot of pressure for that, and especially coming in as the number 1 seed. And then the second game, you're like, oh, I just want to get to the championship game. And so then for the final, it was kind of like, well, it's our last game regardless. Like it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter, but this is the end of the road. So I think just knowing that and appreciating it rather than being nervous is a
Now
big
heading in
thing for our team.
Yeah, no, and heading into overtime in that national championship game, what was your I guess, what was the message in the locker room? What were you guys thinking about, or was it kinda just dead silence in that moment?
Um, like before overtime,
Yeah.
um, I honestly thought that like we were fine. Like I don't think anyone had any doubt um, that we were gonna win. So I think it was positive. It's unfortunate, like an unlucky bounce. Not much you can do, but I don't think anyone was questioning or worried about what was going to happen.
Yeah, and you lost that game in overtime, like you were just mentioning, from a funky bounce that went in behind the net. I guess, what were you thinking at that moment when that goal was scored, and how have you tried to process that moment since it happened?
Um, I mean, that's unfortunate, but to that's how sports go. And we looked back at the goal, and there was really nothing else we could have done. So it's it's unfortunate. And you could say like, well, we should have scored X amount of times before, or we should have scored on the power play that we had 5 minutes left in the third. So yeah, it stinks, but you kind of look at the things that you could have done better versus like the unlucky bounce.
Yeah, and, how have you tried to I guess, how are you gonna use that game as motivation for next year, I guess?
I think it helps us that now we have some experience there, and we're more or less bringing the same team back. So everyone coming back will have gone to that game and will have played in that game, and it won't be like we won't be the new kids on the block, so to speak. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think just knowing there's a lot of questions sometimes about Hockey East compared to the WCHA teams, and I think we showed people that we can hang. So I think that gives us a lot of confidence, and it also gives our league confidence.
Yeah, and was it weird not playing any non-conference games during the regular season? Do you think that does that help when going into a tournament, just knowing that you can play against other conferences? Because normally you guys play some ECAC teams, before the tournament.
Yeah, so I think playing Duluth in the semi really helped us prepare for Wisconsin, because I think that first period against Duluth, we were kind of nervous and just taken back, because that was like our biggest and one of our hardest games of the year. So I think playing them helped, and I think playing other teams in the regular season would have helped. But um, like I said, we're grateful we could play any games at all.
Yeah, and, how many seniors are gonna be staying on the team next year?
I'm pretty sure like more or less all of them, except for one or two, but it's kind of up in the air right now.
Nice, that's good news, and hopefully they do get the opportunity to take that extra year of eligibility. Now, I guess, I wanna transition now and talk a little bit about the beginning of your career. So you're from Buffalo, New York. What's it like growing up
hmm
there, and how'd you start playing hockey?
Um, Buffalo's obviously a hockey town, even though the Sabres are doing quite poorly right now. But my dad played hockey and my mom played field hockey, so they just kind of put me out on skates. Um, and I played with guys, and I just really enjoyed it, so I kept going.
Now, who was your favorite player growing up? Was it someone in the Sabres, like, I guess, Pat LaFontaine? I know he was a big player for the Sabres, a few years ago.
Yeah, I really liked Ryan Miller for some reason.
Mhm.
I wanted to be a goalie so bad, and my dad was like, absolutely not. So I'm grateful that he didn't, but I really liked his competitive nature, and um, yeah, I was really bummed when they traded him to Vancouver.
Yeah, what was your reaction when he got to play in the Olympics 10 years ago or 11 years ago, and just the success that he had in bringing the US, to the gold medal game?
Yeah, it was awesome. I especially think because he was from the Sabres, and they still weren't great. and then just like feeling like you have a connection with someone at that such a big stage when you're a little kid, it just seems like so surreal to like even know a name.
Yeah, definitely. I remember, I think Tim Thomas was on that team. He was the backup goalie, and as a Bruins fan, it was
Hmm.
cool to just have a guy from your team on the Olympic team. I think I agree with you on that. It makes it more special knowing someone on the team versus not knowing anyone.
Hmm.
Now, before Northeastern, you played at Shattuck St Mary's. How'd you get the opportunity to play there, being from New York?
I attended like a USA Hockey national camp, and just chatted with the coach. Um, I went out there and visited and decided that if I want to play college hockey, that was probably the best route that I could to get there. Not because there aren't a lot of options in New York. I just thought it was like going to give me the best chance to do so.
What's it like going to that school and being a part of that historic program with so many legendary hockey players that went there before you did? Just on the women's side alone, Amanda Kessel, the Lamoureux twins, Brianna Decker, I can go on and on. How do you try to add to that legacy being a part of that program?
Um, I think we we recognized that we weren't awesome just because we went there, but that we had a mission to kind of carry on the legacy. And I think I had like the best 3 years of my life and met my best friends, and we just really enjoyed everything. So, and it's a great experience. I wish I could go back and relive it again, but yeah, I think just trying to live up to those expectations was something that really pushed me and pushed a lot of my teammates there.
Do you still talk to some of your teammates from Shattuck today?
Yeah, all the time.
Nice. What do you guys talk about, especially since you're all basically in college hockey doing great things?
Yeah, we just like catch up a lot of times. We'll meet up over the summer, and just like reflect about all the crazy things we did. um, but
Now, how did your time at Shattuck help prepare you for college hockey with Northeastern?
I think it helped that I was surrounded by a lot of players that were better than me. So I got to watch them and kind of imitate them. Um, and the resources we had out there were not comparable to anything else. Like we could more or less skate whenever we wanted. The weight room was always open after school, and everyone cared there about you as a person to make sure you felt like you were at home. So I think with the resources and then just the people I was with really helped.
Yeah, and you originally committed to Providence. Why did you want to go there initially? And just talk about your first time going through the recruiting process.
Yeah, so I didn't have a ton of options, but I really enjoyed Providence and I really liked the coaching staff. And I thought I wanted a small school. Um, wasn't really sure what I wanted to major in, but I thought something maybe on the history route, which Providence was liberal arts based. So I thought I could find something there. And then I have family in New England, so it was like a healthy distance between being at home and then also having family here. And I also didn't think I wanted a big city, just because Shattuck is kind of in the middle of nowhere and pretty isolated. So I thought Providence was comparable in that regard. So it checked all my boxes for sure. And the team had promise, and they also had some good recruits coming in. So I thought that would be a good fit.
And what made you want to transfer and go to Northeastern and just talk about that process as a whole because it's pretty complicated from looking into it myself.
Yeah, they let go of my Providence staff that recruited me after my freshman year. So that was hard just because I'd built a connection with them through the recruiting process. You commit when you're 14 or 15. So I had developed a relationship with them, and it's just scary to not know who you're going to get next. And then ultimately, I chose to stay. And the next staff that came in was great. I just was really unhappy and realized that the reasons I committed to the school were actually what I disliked the most. I didn't like that it was a small population. I didn't like that there wasn't much to do. I was too far from my family. Didn't love any of the major options really. So it was unfortunate because I committed there for the right reasons and then ended up disliking what I thought I would like. Um, but then just luckily hopped on the transfer portal last year right when COVID hit. Um, Talked to a bunch of schools, but mostly was looking at schools that were bigger and had more options and more access to things to do. Just because I don't like to be isolated, and I like to meet new people. So talked to Coach Flint and to the rest of his staff and Erin. Obviously, I knew she had talked to me about the school, and she knew what I liked and what I needed. So unfortunately, I didn't get to visit campus, but it fit everything I was looking for, and then also had like a great team and team culture. So that was something I was interested in, but primarily came here for non-hockey reasons, which a lot of people probably don't believe, but it just fit everything that I needed, and I knew it would help me out later down in life.
Yeah, no, and talk about going to a school in a big city versus kind of like a campus that Providence has.
Yeah, no, it's super different. Obviously, with COVID, it's been a little harder, but and Providence does have things to do on the campus. I just liked to explore and to take, public transport wherever. And that's not really a huge thing there, which is unfortunate. But some people, really love it, that isolated campus, and or they have a car, and I just didn't have that luxury. So coming to Boston, there's so many things to eat. I'm a huge coffee freak, so there's so many different cafes and roasteries, and just I get to try something new every day, which is fun.
Yeah, and how have the academics been like for yourself? And talk about having school online. Has that been an adjustment for yourself? Because I know for me, I kind of prefer the in-person classes just because you're getting the face-to-face interaction with the professor. So it's a little bit hard just staying in your room doing Zoom classes. So I guess how have you adjusted to that aspect of school?
Yeah, I've been lucky. Most of my classes I've had the opportunity to go in, so I have been doing that. And I think the Zoom part is definitely hard because you're kind of sitting at your desk all day, depending on when you have class. But I've found that if I try to engage more in the class and leave my camera on and try to participate in class discussions, I learn more, but I also enjoy the class more opposed to just listening to someone lecture on and on.
Definitely. I think that goes even in person because like if you raise your hand and interact with it, you get more of the class than just sitting there and doing nothing. So I definitely agree with you on that. Now, what's it been like to play under Coach Dave Flint, and what have you learned under him so far in your first year with Northeastern?
Um, I'm super grateful for everything that he's done for me. I came in not thinking I was going to play, and like he didn't care about that. He was like, it doesn't matter if you're not playing. Like, I still want to make sure like you're okay and that you're adjusting and like whatever you need, you know, see if we can help out. And he actually let me, like when I wasn't playing, let me do stats and video analysis so that I could learn the team systems and just see how everyone had played. And I know he really cares about me as a person. So I'm just super grateful. Like couldn't ask for anything else. And even like Coach Carp and Coach Lindsey Berman, they're great people and they're fun to be around and fun to be coached by.
So we're now in the segment I call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions. My first question to you is, what music do you like to listen to just on a general basis?
Um, I don't know. I kind of bounce around, but usually like alternative, or like soft pop.
Nice.
I was really into country at Shattuck because I think it's like a Minnesota thing, but I've kind of gotten away from that.
Nice. Who's your go-to artist, I guess? Like, I don't really know any alternative artists that I can, on the top of my head at least.
Um, I don't know. I like the Arctic Monkeys, which kind of sounds weird, like a weird band, but they're pretty good. Um,
Nice.
yeah.
Now, what's your favorite part about Boston besides like the sports aspect of it, obviously?
I like that you can go like eat so many different foods
Hmm.
and try so many different things. And I think our campus is has a nice setup where we're like close to Fenway, but then we're also close to Southie. Um, and then we can also go to the North End. So I'm hoping to do some more exploring after COVID is hopefully settled down. But yeah, there's just always so many different things to try.
Now, what is your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve, uh, when people brush their teeth with the water on.
That's wasteful too, especially with water, because I think most towns now are like trying to limit their water distribution because it's getting so wasted all the time.
Yeah, so it's kind
No,
of a weird one, but
no, I get it.
or when people don't recycle.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. Trying to keep the environment safe. Now, who is the funniest on the team?
Oh, the funniest on the team, I would say like probably Brooke Tucker.
Nice. And who has the best style on the team besides yourself?
The best style. Alina has pretty good style.
Nice.
Yeah, she rocks the fedora quite
Nice.
often.
Nice. Is that the before game outfit usually?
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Now back to some hockey questions now. My first question to you was what should be done to help grow women's hockey in your opinion, especially since you've been involved with it throughout most of your life?
Yeah, I think just getting involved as a player with like younger kids, working camps or like talking to people about like what hockey has brought me and just like it's literally brought me everything in my life from friends to college to you name it. So that, and then I also think it's great that like sports networks have been picking us up. But I think it's still hard. Like, we played at 2 p.m. on a Monday, and like, yeah, it's great we're getting that coverage, but not a lot of people are going to be able to watch, especially college students or people like my family working. They couldn't take off, to watch a 2 p.m. game. So it was nice that some of the games were at 7 because I think it allowed people to tune in, but um, just making it more accessible. And I think like Hockey East had that free stream for women's games, which was great because I just sent it to everyone that wanted to watch. And I think people that care about me would definitely pay to watch, but it's just harder to get more bandwidth.
No, I definitely agree with you on that. And yeah, no, I did understand why they put like even the first Frozen Four game was at like 2 o'clock, which is very surprising because
Mm-hmm.
I know the men's their first Frozen Four games at 5 p.m. So I definitely agree
Yeah.
with you on that. Just the accessibility and trying to get more women's hockey on TV. I think that's a great opinion, and I definitely agree with you on that.
But
Now,
we got covered by Nesson, which was great a
yeah, no, I
lot this
saw
year.
that. Yeah, no, the hockey's final was on this, and I saw that. That was cool too. Now, what advice would you give, I guess, younger players who are trying to pursue a Division One college hockey scholarship? Because you're just talking about how you think it's important to get the youth involved in women's hockey. So, I guess, what advice would you give those players to pursue a Division One college hockey scholarship?
It's kind of cliche, but like play a lot of sports. Um, I think that really helped with my athleticism. And if you talk to a lot of people, they didn't just play hockey. And I think, as long as you can have fun with it. Like I enjoyed working out. I enjoyed doing um, shooting pucks. Like I enjoyed going to practice. So I think for kids, remembering that like you don't, I don't know if you're 14, like you don't need to. I don't know. It just should be about having fun. And then I think just working hard. Like coaches definitely notice that. Like whether you're hustling off the ice or I don't know. It's the one thing you can control. I think is the biggest thing that I realized is like you can't control how talented you are. But you can control how hard you work, and if you make an effort to say like I'm not going to be outworked by anyone else, then there's nothing you can really. There's nothing else you can do.
Yeah, no, and I think it's another aspect of the playing multiple sports is it doesn't get you burnt out for one particular sport. Is that something you agree with?
Yeah, for sure.
Now, do you have any shout outs you'd like to give before we let you go to any of your family members, friends, teammates, or anyone else?
I guess I'd just like to shout out like my whole Northeastern team. I was nervous coming in as a transfer, but they couldn't have made me feel more loved or accepted. Like people cried when I played my first game and when I scored in the championship game, and that's just awesome. Um, I couldn't be happier.
Well, thank you so much, Maureen, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I admire you a lot as a player, but you're also an even better person off the ice. So I just wanted to let you know that. So take care, stay safe, and good luck for next season.
Thank you.
No problem. One question I like to